Your nails might be trying to tell you something right now. So might the inside of your lower eyelid, the corners of your mouth, and the smoothness of your tongue. And what they could be telling you is that you're iron deficient, one of the most common and most missed nutritional deficiencies on the planet. Here's the number that stopped me in my tracks when I first learned it. According to the World Health Organization, over 2 billion people worldwide are living with iron deficiency anemia. That's roughly 1 in 4 people on Earth. And the majority of them have no idea. They're just tired, always tired, and they've accepted it as normal. Today, I'm going to show you 14 signs of iron deficiency that you can actually see on your body right now. Some of them are dramatic, some of them are subtle, and at least a few of them might make you say, wait, that's been happening to me for months. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what to look for, and more importantly, what to do about it. Let me quickly explain what iron actually does, because once you understand its job, every single sign on this list will make perfect sense. Iron is an essential mineral, and its most important role is inside your red blood cells. Think of each red blood cell as a tiny delivery van. The hemoglobin inside that van is what carries oxygen from your lungs to every cell in your body. And iron? Iron is the engine that makes the whole thing run. No iron, no functional hemoglobin. No functional hemoglobin, no oxygen delivery. And when your cells start running low on oxygen, things start to go wrong, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Now, iron deficiency exists on a spectrum. You can be iron deficient without being fully anemic, meaning your body has depleted its iron stores, but your blood count hasn't crashed yet. That window is actually the most important time to catch it. So let's get into what your body might already be showing you. Sign number 1, pale skin. The first sign is one of the most classic, and it's one of the first things I look for in clinic: pallor, or unusual paleness of the skin. When your red blood cell count drops, your blood literally loses some of its color. And because blood gives skin its warm pinkish tone, especially in people with lighter complexions, the result is skin that looks washed out, almost gray or yellowish. Think of it like watercolor paint. A rich, full tube of red paint gives you a vivid color. Start diluting it, watering it down, and the color fades. That's what's happening in iron deficiency. Now, here's an important thing. Pallor from iron deficiency isn't always obvious in the skin alone, especially if you have a darker skin tone. The real tell is the conjunctiva, the inner lining of your lower eyelid. Let me show you how to check. Self-test, conjunctival pallor check. Gently pull down your lower eyelid so you can see the pink lining underneath. Normally, this should be a vivid, almost salmon pink color. If it looks pale, washed out, almost white or light peach, that is a classic sign of anemia. Try it right now. Most of you will be completely fine, but if your inner eyelid looks unusually pale, that's not something to brush off. I had a patient, a 31-year-old teacher named Maria, who came to me convinced she just needed better sleep. When I pulled down her lower eyelid, the lining was so pale it was nearly white. Her hemoglobin came back at 6.8 grams per deciliter. Normal is at least 12 for women. She had been running on less than half her normal oxygen carrying capacity for months. We started her on iron supplementation, and she told me 6 weeks later that it felt like someone had turned the lights back on. Sign number 2, koilonychia, spoon-shaped nails. This next sign is one of my personal favorites to talk about because it has a brilliant name and it looks like something out of a medical textbook, except it shows up in real people all the time. Koilonychia, from the Greek word koilos, meaning hollow. It describes nails that have lost their normal convex shape and actually started curving inward, creating a shallow bowl or spoon shape. Here's a simple test. Place a small drop of water on your nail. If the nail is normal, the water will run right off. If you have koilonychia, that little droplet will sit in the concave dip like a tiny swimming pool. The reason this happens comes down to iron's role in tissue building. Your nails are made of keratin, which needs iron-dependent enzymes to grow properly. Without enough iron, the structural proteins in your nail bed lose their integrity, and over time, the nail begins to deform. It doesn't happen overnight. This is usually a sign of prolonged iron deficiency over months or years. I once saw a 43-year-old woman, a hairdresser, who came in thinking her nails were damaged from chemical exposure at work. And yes, chemical exposure is a real cause of nail changes. But when I looked closely, both hands were symmetrically affected with perfect spoon-shaped concavity on all fingers. Asymmetric damage from chemicals. Symmetric changes, think systemic. Her ferritin, the storage form of iron, came back at 4. The reference range is 12 to 150. She was running on fumes. After 4 months of iron therapy, her nails had grown back to a completely normal shape. Sign number 3, pica, craving ice, dirt, or chalk. This one surprises people every single time I mention it in clinic. And yet, it's one of the most fascinating and unmistakable signs of iron deficiency. Pica is the compulsive craving for non-food substances. In iron deficiency, the most common form is pagophagia, an overwhelming, obsessive urge to chew ice. Not, I like a cold drink on a hot day ice. I mean craving so intense that patients are chewing through a full tray of ice every hour. Some patients describe craving clay, dirt, chalk, paper, or raw starch. We don't fully understand why this happens. The leading theory is that iron deficiency affects dopamine pathways in the brain, creating unusual compulsive cravings. There's also a theory that chewing cold substances provides temporary relief from inflammation in the mouth, which, as you'll see in a moment, is another sign of iron deficiency. I had a 28-year-old woman who came to my office after her partner finally convinced her to see a doctor. She was going through 2 bags of ice a day. She said she knew it sounded strange. It didn't sound strange to me at all. It sounded like iron deficiency until proven otherwise. Her ferritin was 3. We treated her, and within 3 weeks of starting iron, the ice cravings were almost completely gone. She texted her partner from my office saying, "I think I'm cured." If you're craving ice, dirt, clay, chalk, or anything else that isn't food, please don't be embarrassed. Tell your doctor. It's a real symptom with a real cause and a real fix. Sign number 4, angular cheilitis, cracked corners of the mouth. Look at the corners of your mouth. Are they cracked, red, sore, or prone to splitting? Especially when you open your mouth wide to eat or yawn. This is called angular cheilitis, and while it can be caused by a fungal infection or vitamin B12 deficiency, iron deficiency is one of the classic and underappreciated causes. Here's why. Iron plays a key role in maintaining the rapidly dividing cells that line your mouth and skin. When iron is low, those cells can't renew themselves properly. The corners of the mouth, which are constantly in motion, constantly moist, and constantly under mechanical stress, are particularly vulnerable. The result is painful cracking and inflammation. Think of it like a rubber band that's been left in the cold too long. It loses its elasticity, it becomes brittle, and it splits when stretched. A 36-year-old vegan patient of mine had been treating his recurrent angular cheilitis with antifungal cream for over a year. No improvement. When we finally checked his iron levels, his serum ferritin was 6. He had no idea. We addressed the iron deficiency alongside some dietary adjustments, and within 2 months, the cracking had healed and hadn't returned. Sign number 5. Atrophic glossitis, smooth, sore tongue. Stick out your tongue and take a look. Normally, your tongue has a rough, textured surface covered in small bumps called papilla. Those tiny projections are where your taste buds live. In iron deficiency, the tongue can become smooth, swollen, and sore, a condition called atrophic glossitis. The papilla flatten and disappear, leaving a slick, almost shiny surface. Eating can become painful. Spicy or acidic foods can feel like they're burning through tissue. This happens for the same reason as angular cheilitis. Iron-starved, rapidly dividing cells in the oral mucosa begin to deteriorate. The lining of the mouth can't maintain itself. If you notice your tongue is unusually smooth, redder than usual, or sore, especially combined with any of the other signs on this list, that's a meaningful cluster of symptoms pointing in one direction. Sign number 6, pale or bluish whites of the eyes, blue sclera. The whites of your eyes are normally, well, white. But in iron deficiency anemia, a subtle but telling change can occur. The sclera takes on a slightly bluish or pale bluish-white tint. The reason is elegant in its simplicity. The white of your eye isn't entirely opaque. It has a slight translucency. Normally, the rich network of blood vessels underneath gives it warmth. When your blood becomes less oxygenated and your red blood cell count drops, that underlying color fades. And what you see through the now more visible scleral collagen is a faint blue. This is more subtle than some of the other signs, and it's usually present only in moderate to severe anemia, but it's worth knowing about. Sign number 7, hair loss. Now, I want to be careful here because hair loss has many causes, but iron deficiency is one of the most common and reversible ones, and it's one that gets missed all the time. When your body is depleted of iron, it has to make a decision about where to send the limited resources it has. Essential organs, heart, brain, lungs, get priority. Hair follicles, which are non-essential for survival, get deprioritized. The follicles shift prematurely from the growth phase into the resting phase, and eventually the shedding phase. This is called telogen effluvium, diffuse hair loss from a physiological stressor. Unlike male pattern baldness, which starts at the temples or crown, iron deficiency hair loss tends to be diffuse, spread evenly across the scalp. You might notice more hair than usual in the drain after a shower, on your pillow, or coming off on your brush. The encouraging news, and I love giving people this news, is that iron-related hair loss is almost always reversible once the deficiency is corrected. I had a 41-year-old patient who had been collecting hair samples in a Ziploc bag to show me over 3 months because she was so distressed. After 6 months of iron repletion, her hair had fully grown back. She sent me a photo. I still have it. If you love this kind of information and you want your questions answered in a monthly live stream, then click the link up here to become a channel member. It helps keep this channel going and gets you access to our incredible community of curious minds. Now, back to the video. Sign number 8, brittle nails. Separate from spoon-shaped nails, iron deficiency can also simply cause nails to become brittle, thin, and prone to breaking, even before the classic Koilonychia pattern develops. Your nails are a window into your nutritional status. Iron-dependent enzymes are required for keratin synthesis, the structural protein that makes your nails strong and resilient. Without enough iron, nails become fragile. They peel in layers. They break sideways. They develop vertical ridges. If you've always had soft, breakable nails and assumed it was just genetics, it might be worth checking your iron levels before accepting that as your baseline. Sign number 9, shortness of breath on exertion. Here's where we start moving from visible changes towards symptoms you feel, but this one has a very clear physiological logic. Climbing stairs, walking up a slight incline, carrying groceries, do these things leave you more breathless than they should? Remember the delivery van analogy. In iron deficiency anemia, your oxygen delivery system is compromised. When you exercise, your muscles demand more oxygen. A healthy cardiovascular system meets that demand effortlessly. But when your red blood cells are pale, depleted, and fewer in number, your body has to work much harder. Your heart beats faster, your breathing quickens, just to deliver the same amount of oxygen. This is your body making up in volume what it's lost in efficiency. The important safety note here: new or worsening shortness of breath should always be evaluated by a doctor. While iron deficiency is a common cause, shortness of breath can also indicate heart or lung conditions that need to be ruled out. Sign number 10, restless leg syndrome. This one is lesser known, but incredibly important, and it affects millions of people who have no idea it's connected to iron. Restless leg syndrome, or RLS, is an uncomfortable, crawling, restless sensation in the legs, typically worse at night, that creates an irresistible urge to move. Patients describe it as ants crawling under the skin or an electric current that won't shut off. It's disruptive, exhausting, and often dismissed as anxiety or stress. Iron plays a critical role in dopamine production in the brain. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter responsible for regulating smooth, coordinated movement. When iron levels drop, dopamine function in the basal ganglia, the part of the brain that controls movement, becomes disrupted. The result can be those characteristic restless, uncomfortable sensations in the legs. Studies show that iron deficiency is present in up to 25% of patients with restless leg syndrome. And here's the remarkable thing. In many patients, correcting the iron deficiency completely resolves the RLS. If you've been suffering through restless nights because your legs won't settle, please ask your doctor about checking your ferritin level. Ferritin specifically, not just the standard iron or hemoglobin. More on that in a moment. Sign number 11, cold hands and feet. Do your hands and feet feel cold even when everyone around you is warm? Do you joke that you just have bad circulation? Cold extremities can absolutely be a sign of iron deficiency. When your blood is carrying less oxygen than it should, your body applies a survival hierarchy. It keeps your core warm and pulls back circulation to the extremities. Your fingers and toes are the last in line. There's also a direct effect on your thyroid. Iron deficiency can impair the production of thyroid hormone, which is your body's thermostat. Low thyroid function equals lower internal temperature equals cold all the time. Think of it as your body turning the heating down in the rooms it doesn't use to keep the boiler room, your vital organs, running. Sign number 12, extreme fatigue. I put this one here, not first, because fatigue is so nonspecific that on its own, it rarely triggers the thought, I wonder if my iron is low. But in the context of everything else on this list, it becomes very meaningful. Iron deficiency fatigue isn't ordinary tiredness that resolves after a good sleep. It's a deep, bone-level exhaustion. A 9-hour sleep that still leaves you feeling hollow. Difficulty getting off the sofa. A sensation that your body is made of something heavier than it used to be. The mechanism is straightforward. When your cells aren't getting enough oxygen, energy production suffers at the most fundamental level. Your mitochondria, the power generators inside every cell, cannot function optimally without oxygen and without iron-containing enzymes. The result is cellular-level fatigue that no amount of coffee, sleep, or willpower can fix. Sign number 13, headaches and dizziness. Iron deficiency anemia can cause recurrent headaches and dizziness, particularly the kind that gets worse when you stand up quickly. Low hemoglobin means reduced oxygen delivery to the brain. The brain is remarkably sensitive to oxygen supply. It makes up only 2% of your body weight, but uses 20% of your oxygen. When oxygen delivery is even slightly compromised, blood vessels in the brain dilate to compensate, which can trigger the throbbing, pressure-like headaches that iron-deficient patients describe. The dizziness on standing, called orthostatic symptoms, happens because a heart that's already working hard to compensate for anemia struggles to immediately meet the increased demand of raising your body against gravity. Sign number 14, brain fog and difficulty concentrating. The last sign I want to talk about is one that patients often describe in their own words. I just can't think straight. My brain feels like it's wrapped in cotton. I keep forgetting things I never would have forgotten before. Brain fog, cognitive slowing, difficulty with word finding, attention, and memory. These are real, documented neurological consequences of iron deficiency, and they are often the reason people finally come to see a doctor. Iron is essential for neurotransmitter synthesis, myelin production, the protective coating around your nerve fibers, and mitochondrial function in brain cells. Iron deficiency disrupts all three. Cognitive testing studies show measurable deficits in attention and working memory in iron-deficient individuals, and measurable improvement after treatment. A 22-year-old medical student came to me, convinced she was developing early burnout. She was struggling to retain information she used to memorize easily. Her concentration in lectures had collapsed, and she felt like she was thinking through fog. Ferritin, 7. She had been restricting her diet aggressively for 6 months. After 8 weeks of iron repletion and dietary improvements, she emailed me to say she had just passed an exam she had been dreading. I feel like myself again, she wrote. At this point in the video, you're starting to see how this condition can silently build, one symptom layered on another, without anyone connecting the dots. I want to share one case that illustrates exactly what can happen when it gets missed for too long. 90-year-old Priya was a first-year university student who had been vegetarian her whole life. She was active, health-conscious, ate what she believed was a balanced diet. She had been tired for over a year, but she was a busy student, so she pushed through. She'd had headaches, some hair loss, cold hands. She attributed it all to stress. Then, one October evening, she collapsed trying to walk up 2 flights of stairs to her lecture hall. When the paramedics arrived, her heart rate was 138 beats per minute. Her heart was racing to compensate for blood that could barely carry oxygen. Her hemoglobin, when we checked it in the emergency department, was 4.2 grams per deciliter. Normal for women is above 12. She was functioning on barely a third of her normal oxygen carrying capacity. When I examined her, I could see the pallor of her conjunctiva from across the room. Her nails were beginning to show early koilonychia. Her tongue was smooth and mildly sore. These signs had been there for months. The system had just never been triggered to check. She required an iron infusion, intravenous iron, to rapidly replenish her stores and close dietary counseling. Over the next 12 weeks, her hemoglobin climbed steadily back toward normal. By week 16, she was running 3 kilometers again. She told me afterwards, I thought being tired was just part of being a student. It wasn't. It was iron deficiency, hiding in plain sight. So why do people end up iron deficient in the first place? There are 2 main reasons: not taking enough iron in, or losing iron faster than you can replace it. On the intake side, iron deficiency is extremely common in people following vegetarian or vegan diets because the most bioavailable form of iron, called heme iron, comes from animal products, particularly red meat. Plant-based iron sources contain non-heme iron, which is absorbed much less efficiently. This doesn't mean plant-based diets can't be healthy. They absolutely can, but they require more careful planning around iron intake and absorption. On the loss side, heavy menstrual periods are the leading cause of iron deficiency in premenopausal women worldwide. Blood loss, whether from heavy periods, gastrointestinal bleeding from ulcers, hemorrhoids, or polyps, is a significant and sometimes hidden source of iron loss. Pregnancy also dramatically increases iron demands. Other less appreciated causes include poor absorption, conditions like celiac disease, inflammatory bowel disease, or even long-term use of acid-suppressing medications like proton pump inhibitors can impair iron absorption significantly. And importantly, iron deficiency in an adult man or postmenopausal woman without an obvious cause should always prompt investigation for gastrointestinal blood loss. Please don't accept you're just low in iron without understanding why. Fortunately, diagnosing iron deficiency is straightforward, but the key is asking for the right tests. A standard full blood count will catch iron deficiency anemia once it's progressed enough to affect your red blood cells. But if you want to catch it earlier, in the iron-depleted stage, before your blood count has dropped, you need to check your ferritin level. Ferritin is your body's iron storage protein, and it's the earliest and most sensitive marker of iron status. Some doctors will also check serum iron and transferrin saturation for a complete picture. Here's what the numbers mean. A ferritin below 12 micrograms per liter is clinically deficient. But many patients, particularly those with symptoms, benefit from treatment even when ferritin is between 12 and 30. Some experts now argue that a ferritin below 30 in a symptomatic patient warrants treatment. Talk to your doctor about what your specific level means for you. The good news is that iron deficiency is very treatable. For most people, oral iron supplementation, taken on an empty stomach with vitamin C to enhance absorption, is all that's needed. Ferrous sulfate, ferrous gluconate, ferrous fumarate, your doctor will guide you on which formulation and dosage is right for you. Dietary changes, increasing your intake of red meat, legumes, leafy greens, and fortified foods are also part of a comprehensive approach. For more severe cases, like PRIA, or when oral iron isn't tolerated or absorbed, intravenous iron infusions can replenish your stores rapidly and safely. Most people start feeling noticeably better within 4 to 8 weeks of starting treatment, though it can take 3 to 6 months to fully replenish stores. Your doctor will repeat your blood tests to confirm your levels are recovering. If you have any of the symptoms we've discussed today, don't wait. Request a ferritin level at your next appointment. If you're over 30 and haven't had your iron checked recently, this is a good reminder. If you found this video helpful, I'd love for you to share it with someone in your life who is always tired, always cold, or always saying they need to check their iron, but never quite gets around to it. This video might just be the nudge they need. And I challenge you to this. If you saw yourself in even 3 or 4 of these signs today, make an appointment with your doctor this week and ask for a ferritin level. Leave a comment below to let me know you're going to do it. Committing out loud makes it real. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn about another common and underdiagnosed deficiency next, I'd recommend checking out my video on the signs of vitamin B12 deficiency, because B12 and iron deficiency often travel together, and the signs overlap in some fascinating ways. Stay curious, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.